Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us today. As way getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Um, I'm as you can see from my gray hair, I'm a sales rep that have been in the industry for quite a long time. Actually started, funny story. I started out selling custom suits to executives in their offices.
Wow.
And it's funny, I moved from Pittsburgh, where I'm originally from, and I moved to Buffalo, New York. And
For the
this is
weather?
before, yes, it's for the scenic views. So I moved to Buffalo to open up an office there, and this is when you had to call AT&T and have them kind of set up your office and set, and they were late. So the first customer I saw, I had kind of coerced him into giving me a little book that had all the attorneys in Buffalo, their phone number. So I would stand outside in a phone booth, cold calling attorneys going, hey, I'm new in town and I sell custom suits and I come to guys' offices and yeah, sure, Mike, when can I call you back? Hey, I'm only in this booth from like 9 to 3. So I moved from there and moved eventually into technology sales.
Yeah.
And so I was with Kronos, which is a leader in the HCM space, and Infor for 15, 16 years. And then I've moved now into kind of the wellness app space. And I've been doing that for quite a while and just love it.
And why sales for you?
I always I always talk about this. So I don't think I have never met anyone that was 16 years old and said, "What are you going to do when you're for a career?" I'm going to go into sales. Like that's going to be my thing. I always think we were the guys that were in and the gals that were in the bar as late as we could be talking to people. And then we got out of college and we went, "Oh hell." I I should have maybe learned accounting or engineering or something. So I think I think sales for a lot of people was that safety net. And here's one, right? What has two thumbs and kind of fell into it? This guy.
Yeah, it always seems to come down to either you're money motivated or you can't do anything else.
Second.
Or both.
Yeah. Well, the money addiction came later.
Yeah.
Right. It was like first hit of the crack pipe is free. You can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Then you have a little success, and then you're assigned for life.
So you had the personality at the beginning. How'd you develop the skills though to get somebody to buy something? How to use your time right? How to qualify people, prioritize things?
My first technology job, I went to work for a distributor for Kronos called Gerber Systems. And the guy that hired me said, "Hey, I can tell that, you have a lot of potential. They hardly paid me anything. They're like, you'll be great. Come on, I'll help you. I'll be your guy. I'll walk you along this." I'm like, awesome. So I was there for a week and he went, "By the way, I'm resigning." So the CEO was actually based in Denver. And he's like, "Hey, I'll come down whenever you guys have appointments and I'll, help you." So I did two things. Number one, I just started cold calling, right? Because I can do that, right?
Yeah.
That's the muscle memory thing. And people would say no. And my next question would be, "Hey, look, I'm new to this and I got no idea what I'm doing. Why did you say no to me? What do you do now? Why do you do that? What makes a good call?" And then Chip Gerber would come in, and everybody else in the office, I think, was a little intimidated that, the guy whose corner office is the name of the company is going to come to town, and I don't want to interact with him. And I don't, I just want to save my job. And I was like, okay, so I want sales and I want money. Why don't I have the CEO sell for me? And I'll just sit there and listen. And I just remember being absolutely blown away with a term that I use all the time, is how authentic he was. And so that has been, there's one word that I've tried to use throughout my career. It's just being authentic. It's like, there's a great book called How We Decide.
Yeah.
And I don't read sales books. I like to read a lot of psychology books because that's what it comes down to, right? Because anything, by the time something comes in on a book, it's already, we already know it. Everybody does it, right? So one of the things that they talk about is how you can see when someone's not being authentic, but you can't rationalize that. So it's like if you have someone, well, we had our backyard done last year, and we had a bunch of different contractors come in, and there's a couple that you go, I don't feel comfortable with that person. Now, were they mean? No. Were they professional? Yes. Were they bright? Yes. But I believe that there's something they weren't being authentic about, and I picked that up, and my wife picked that up, and we were both like, no, not that guy, not that guy, but that guy. We didn't like his answers all the time, but there's a comfort with authenticity. Does that make sense?
It does. And there's a lot of science behind that.
Yes.
In that, and that's why a lot of these scammers on YouTube use social proof to avoid the BS.
Yeah, for sure.
They sit on a Lamborghini or they rent a mansion, and the social proof trumps our suspicion of what they're saying.
Because we focus on that.
We want that more than the truth.
100%. 100%.
And your point about the CEO is almost always the best salesperson in the company.
And it is his baby.
It's his baby. He knows it the most, cares the most, is emotionally attached to it, has talked to the most high-level customers.
And committed to your success because he's invested a lot of cash in you. And if this guy sucks, that's not helping me.
It's not. And it was my hack because I was really bad at the executive close meeting, and we were selling $1 million computers, and that meeting had to take place.
Yeah, sure.
So I'd call up Paul, the CEO. I go, I need you, man. And he'd be there the next morning, and he was like JFK. He could get up there and paint the vision like nobody else could.
That, you know what I always say when people in our field, their ego gets ahead of where they are. So I always say that because my manager's fantastic. I love her. She's absolutely awesome. One of the best leaders I've had. And I always say that, she'll go like, what do you think we should do? And I always say that the manager of the project, the leader of the project is the deal. It's not my ego. It's not your ego. It's the deals. Like, I don't need to talk. Like, if you need me to sit in there and, drink a glass of wine while you guys close this deal, let's do it.
I remember
the deal's the boss.
They being in the meeting and him pointing to me and go, could you go get some coffee? And my first reaction was, is that all I'm here for, is to get coffee? And then I said, shut up and get coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
I went and got coffee because whatever he's doing is worth a whole lot more than what I'm doing.
You're like, I am an executive. I'm a professional. Do you like cream or sugar?
Yes. And the sooner we realize that, the better off we are.
Yeah, for sure. We all think as sales reps that we have to have the answers. And like you, I sell multi-million-dollar deals, right? And the wrong thing is to know all the answers.
Right.
Like I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Good question. Let me ask somebody smarter than me. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting a couple of them. So I'll go find out what the answer is. And no is a fine answer.
Yeah, and the beauty of not knowing is you get the automatic reason to meet again.
Yeah. And to that point, Brian, no, we don't do that is a good answer too.
Yeah.
There's so many reps, I think, out there that have these incredible pipelines. And what those are is just, they're out there, but they're not truly qualified. I always say that you have to race to a no. If you're going to say no, like time is the biggest bandit we have. If you're going to say no, dude, say no on the first appointment. Give them the right to say no. Hey, Brian, I'm really excited to talk to you again. I really think we have a great solution, and this could be a really good partnership. I need to ask you one commitment. If at any point in this process you go, you know what, this ain't right, I don't want to do this, telling me no is cool. Ghosting ain't cool. Just tell me no, and I'm good with that.
Ghosting's not cool, because ghosting may be a no, but you don't know it's a no, and you don't want to admit it's a no.
I talk smack about how I want people to say no, but those contractors that came and did our yard, right?
Yeah.
The three, I made my wife tell them no because I couldn't do it. So for the record, while we have this conversation, I know all the answers in real life, man. I'm just trying to I'm like, sweetie, I can't tell them no. You gotta, you're tougher than I am. You tell them no.
And when was your first big year? The year where you got the confidence and the income and the results that said, I've got this. I think I can really make a
I
living
can't
out
tell
of
you the
this.
exact year. I can tell you the first two numbers had a 1 and a 9 in them. But I was working with Kronos, and back then our
So
solutions
that was
weren't that
1.9
expensive.
million.
No, it was the 1900. It was a 1900 something.
They had sales back then?
Yeah. I was selling 8 tracks.
Okay.
No. So I had a June, and I used to work primarily in the public sector at that point. And I had a June that was twice my quota for the annual quota. And what it really taught me is there were so many deals that I had been working for so long that and I was, I was doing what you were supposed to do, and I was hitting dry spots and dry spots and dry spots, and then it came in. And that really was, to me, that was an eye opener. It's like, as we talked, I'm a sports fanatic, right? And Michael Jordan, they said to him one time in an interview, why do you practice so hard? You practice harder than anyone else. You're the greatest player probably in the history of the game. Why do you practice so much? And he said, because I look at the games as a payoff for practice. My salary is to practice every day and to do that job. The games are the payoff. So I started really adopting that my job is, 8 to 5, whatever day, working on driving revenue. I believe that what makes a good salesperson, once makes a bad salesperson, or successful and not successful, let's say it that way, is those 20% of deals. Because 40% you're going to lose, because Sally has a relationship with Bill. They work together in 3 other deals that she bought at another company. Then you've got on this side, you've got the CEO came over and he used your solution somewhere else. And even if you throw up on yourself in the demo, he's going to buy from you. Yeah. It's that 20% in the middle.
Yes, the margins.
And that makes the successful rep versus the non-successful rep.
And how do you tell those deals apart?
Because you ask the question that you don't want to hear the answer to.
Yeah.
You go, I always say that, like, once someone really, really is showing me the buying signs, I start looking for why they won't buy.
Right.
And if it doesn't make sense, it's to say, Brian, I am so excited you guys are thinking of partnering with us. What I don't get is you had ABC company and you've been telling me how happy you are with them. Where am I missing things? Like this isn't adding up to me. It takes cojones, but that's why they pay us the money.
Well, that's it. Because if you don't ask it, you're going to get the answer with a no or a ghosting about 2 or 3 weeks later.
Yeah, I want to run to a no. I back in my single days, I don't want to talk to this woman at the bar for 4.5 hours if she has a boyfriend and has absolutely no interest in me, right? Just, well, hi, how are you? Can I buy you a drink? No, thank you.
Move on.
Move on, right, exactly.
And where'd you get the resilience to be able to take the no and not make it ruin your day?
lack of intelligence, maybe.
Come on.
I look back to my dad, who was not by any means successful. He worked 6 days a week. He managed a dry cleaner. We know it. He was a manager there.
Yeah.
He left at 4:30 in the morning when there was a bus strike. We didn't have a car. When there was a bus strike, he walked. And this is in Pittsburgh, where, as you know, it can get pretty cold. He walked 5 miles, 4:30 in the morning, to get to work, because that's what you did. And then he walked home. So, us in sales, we like to bitch and moan about how tough it is.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm living in Scottsdale, Arizona. Nobody's yelling at me today. You don't want to buy, take a number. There's a lot of people that don't want to buy.
So it's that metaphor of, contrasting it to like the physical hardships that.
Yeah, my dad got up and just did his deal every day and didn't complain. And so I get up and do my deal. I wear long pants all the time when I'm working. I don't know why. It makes no sense. It can be 110 degrees here, but that's what you do. That's what the work is.
And when you're coming up, what were some of the most important lessons that you learned?
People don't do anything without an emotional need to do so.
Yeah.
That has always been something that when I'll be involved in a deal, when people talk about ROI and business case, and my point is always, that's how people rationalize a decision to do something.
Yes.
Is there a trust there? Will I get, if I buy this solution, if I partner with this guy and it helps me, will I get promoted? And if I get promoted, will my wife be happy because we can get to go to Hawaii? And what's the emotion behind that? So it's always that emotion behind it. Like, a great question is, like, I always say, like, what happens to you if this project fails? And they go, well, we as a company. I'm like, I don't care what your company would do. Like, how does this affect you?
Yes.
What we forget is we get a quota every quarter, right? And we're like, I got to hit that number. But what we don't realize, or we don't really kind of spend a lot of time, is that person is making a decision that makes or breaks the way they're viewed within their organization. A lot of bad decisions have cost a lot of people their jobs.
And I think it's something that we don't really, I think everybody knows that, but people don't know it at the right time.
I think that's very valid.
Because when we do our presentation and our demo, how much of that is talking about emotion and getting them to feel what it's going to be like after they implement what we're selling?
That's why I always say that demos are, there are a couple of things. First of all, they're where art and science meet, right? And secondly, they're theater.
Yes.
And if you want to do a powerful demo and you want to really engage people, get to points in the conversation where you speak quietly and you just see people leaning forward, or you see people now on Zoom just like, shrinking their solitaire game, because whatever this person's saying is something that I need to pay attention to. It's almost like it's theater. It's, how do I take you? How do I let you go? How do I bring you back? This person needs to speak about that. Let me jump in at the right time. Little things, like I would say, like, I'll have subject matter experts on and they'll go, okay, I'll do this slide and then you do that slide. And I'm like, no, the way we should do this is, because you're a lot smarter than me, you do this slide and then I will say, Sally, can I interrupt you for a second? And sure, Mike. And then you go, here's the way I think about that. It's like, I don't know if you're a fan, but of Bruce Springsteen.
Sure.
All the little conversations that he has with the band, all the little that seem so like, hey, well, let's play casual.
This. Yeah.
Are planned, which really makes this like you're part of this show.
it's like, audience involved improv.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too many reps just say, okay, this is how it works. This is how it's better. This is why you should care. And it's like, but they're thinking like, well, what do I get out of it? Is this going to help my career? Am I going to increase my market rate, my market value?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're thinking.
How do I look to that CEO that's going to have to look at this piece of paper?
Yeah. Am I going to be a hero or,
Yeah.
and did someone teach you that? Or is this something you just kind of observed and
I think
figured
it's
out?
something I observed. Yeah, I know it's something I observed.
Yeah.
And we, sometimes somebody people probably said it to me 100 times, but until you kind of get it yourself,
Right.
that's when the light bulb goes off, right?
Well, that's it, because it's the end of the quarter and the deal makes perfect logical sense, but it doesn't close.
Yeah. Do you have the guts to say, and that's the other thing is, um, people are generally nice, right?
Yeah.
People can accept my apology. They can they can be okay with, what's the word am I looking for? They can forgive me, but they can't forgive a company. So when you get to that point where you say, hey, Brian, everything about this logically makes sense to me. Everything you were telling me is what we did. Am I right? Did I miss it? No. Then my only thought is I must have done something wrong. What did I do wrong? How did I not explain this properly? And then that is when you start. I have the company I used to work with, they used to call it the Yarnell breakup letter. And it's an email that I send when I'm just like, hey, this all made sense. Evidently, I screwed up. I don't know what I did. My deepest apologies. I haven't heard back from you in a month and a half. Must have been something I said or did. And for that, I apologize. I hope we can re-engage at some point in the future, and I'll try to do a better job then. As of now, that is 100% hit rate on something bad.
Yeah.
It might not be, we want to do a deal with you,
No.
but it might be, hey, things just got out of whack. We decided to cancel the project. We're starting to step back and look at this, or you get some kind of reply to that. And that's about, I don't know why I answered that way. That wasn't what you asked, but that's
well, what it does is you take responsibility. You're not, most breakup things are pushing where you say, you seem so interested. It made perfect sense. The ROI was there.
You did something
What
wrong.
did you do wrong? You couldn't
Right.
convince somebody. And people read that and they're like,
Screw
I don't
you.
need to. Yeah, it's not my job to sell
Yeah.
your stuff.
That's exactly right.
But you took responsibility.
I evidently did something wrong because you'd be stupid not to buy this. I usually don't type that
You don't
in.
say that, right? That's what you're thinking.
I'm thinking that.
And now I got to imagine you've been through a QBR or two in your career.
Oh.
Now, and when you hear the reps present their deals for the quarter, what do you see them missing?
I think goes back to the reason why this person won't do it. QBRs are a lot of times, let me sell you that I'm really good at this. Yeah. And so you keep me here for another quarter. Yeah. Where, and I'll take the other side, because a lot of times companies will go, we are here to help you. We want to find out where you threw up on yourself so we can help you. Yeah. And that's not always the case. Different leadership is a different way. Yeah. I think part of it is maybe just because I've been doing it so long, I'm just pretty transparent with, hey, I blew this. This is where I screwed up with that. Where younger reps, I get it, they're starting out on their career and they're scared. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's freeing when you have more experience and you start seeing what the whole reality really is.
Right, because I think the managers look at the QBRs like, hey, we can all get together, share ideas, see how we can help. and come up with a strategy, but that's usually not how they behave.
Right. And it's all the individual, right?
Yeah.
The firm I work with now, they're really good at, they're like, hey, let's strategize this. And
Yeah.
they're like, what do you think, Mike? And I go, I think this. And they're like, yeah, I like that, or I don't like that, or why don't we
Right.
do this? Yeah, they're rare, right?
And when reps come to you, what do they typically ask for help with?
It's generally how I feel I'm really, really good at like the discovery process and building relationships. And frankly, a lot of it has changed when I moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, right? Because it's a different vibe.
Yeah.
When I used to sell custom suits in you know into these executives in the
firms.
East Coast, I had 30 seconds. I better get you excited and interested, and they don't care that you golfed where they golfed. Like that ain't the deal.
Yeah.
But you move out west, and it's a little bit more. Let me build that relationship, and it's really about finding out who the person is on the other end. And you know, one of the easiest things that don't tell anybody.
No,
Okay,
single
'cause it's
person.
just
Between you and
and me. You know, it's a beautiful, easy thing to do is you look someone up on Facebook, and a lot of people have photos there, and you go, okay, they got 2 kids. They're a Denver Broncos fan, or they recently went. You've got something there. Now you don't walk in and go, "Hi, I'm a creepy
Right.
guy."
I
You got
checked out
2
your
kids, and
Facebook. That's a
yeah,
cute kid.
yeah.
Your wife's hot too.
Yeah, wow. Does she work out?
How'd you get her?
Wow, she's a drinker, huh? No, but that gives you that little inner knowledge of that person. I'll give you a story. One person, she's become a friend of mine, and she had no interest in seeing us. I flew up to Denver at a couple meetings, but it was an account that I really needed to get into. And I saw all her Facebook pictures were her and her 2 kids. So we had an 8 a.m. meeting. I walk in and I sit down, and she goes, and I mean, I've never had a meeting start off this way. I don't like salespeople. I don't like to be sold. I have no need. We are good. And I said, fine. You know what? My reality is I've got 2 teenage daughters that are driving me nuts, and I'm out of town. So I just want to sit here and relax a little bit. We had the best conversation. She ended up buying like a year later, ended up speaking at our conferences. Never thought, you know, that I was trying to force something down her throat, because I understand this is the way she is. I'm just completely authentic. Yeah. But just that, I don't care. We talked for that first meeting, 0 about what I did for a living. 0. She talked about her kids. I talked about my kids. That was a half an hour and I'm like, look, you said you were busy. It's, 8:30. I'm going to get out of your hair. Hey, next time I come up, maybe we'll grab lunch and talk about how much our kids are paying the ass.
And people look at that the wrong way. They see it as kind of old school, but it's
well,
people.
I'm old. Well, I'm old, Brian.
No, you're just a kid, just getting started, rookie. But also, until people have like active pain or interest in something, they're all set.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, your yard was probably all set until your neighbor had a better yard, right? There was something that triggered the event, or you found out what you could do with your yard.
And I'll go one step further with it sounds manipulative, but it's really not, because I generally like to talk to people
about what they care about.
Right.
They don't care about what you're selling. They care about themselves.
Yeah. If you sit down with someone and you go, let's say you're at a dinner party and you turn and the person's next to you and they ask you questions for 15 minutes and you're going to leave that and you're going to go, Tom was a great guy. He's a great guy. Really like Tom. Tom's a good dude. Tom probably, I mean, he's not conniving. He really likes to hear, has a general interest in people. Right. What makes you tick? Yeah. What makes you, how did you come to that decision?
Right. If you go to a therapist, the therapist doesn't talk for an hour. They don't talk at all. They just ask you a couple questions.
Exactly.
They peel back. And you leave and you go, boy, that was great.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
It's
You're
not,
like, they're so good at
yeah.
just letting me talk.
And a lot of people, they hear like, oh, I'm all set, and they think that's an objection. No, that's just that's where they are. That's where they're starting, and how you elicited that.
We we uh we record our calls, and I did one recently with a major financial institute, and got on the phone with a woman, goes, I don't know why I took this appointment. This isn't something we want to do, blah, 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 blah. And I went, I get it. You got a lot going on, and I completely get that. The last thing in the world you need to do during open enrollment is have some idiot like me on a call with you. 100%. And I'm like, so what's going on with you guys now? And 30 minutes later, we scheduled a demo. And there's a general interest. But we have this, I've got to, I always
I
say,
got to make my points.
I always say this, if you want a great experiment to do with sales reps, right? And I did this training with a company my wife worked with one time, did a little role play, which people hate role play, but I go, and this was in Arizona. I go, let's pretend you work for the Chamber of Commerce in Arizona. That's your job. And I go, okay. And I go, let's role play. On my burning, they pick up the phone and I go, why would anybody want to move to Arizona? And they go, well, I like hiking. I like this, it has great hiking. It has sunshine. It's blah, blah. Okay, next person. Blah. We went through 4 of them and I had all the answers written down. And then I started going, no, I have melanoma, so I don't like sunshine. I'm in a wheelchair, so hiking's not good. And I went through and crossed them all up. I go, the correct answer to that, why would anybody move to Arizona, is, I don't know. You tell me, what do you want to do? What do you like to do? I don't know. Maybe you should move here. We got enough people. We're fine. But what do you dig doing?
Because it's their motive, not ours.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Hey, Mike, I really enjoyed this conversation. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
I'm on LinkedIn. It's Mike, YARNALL. I have almost zero social media existence.
And what's your TikTok?
Yeah. Actually, I did stand up a few times. I am on TikTok now.
Are you? Cool.
Yeah, with like 3 ridiculous
dance videos.
Posts. Yeah. Dancing video. Yeah. Brian, I really enjoyed it. And I got to tell you, I love your videos again. I think they're fantastic. You walk more than any human being I've ever met in my life. I always look in the background. I'm like, is he really walking, or is it like a Flintstone cartoon where they just keep doing it different? But yeah, but it's you walking, man. And I just really enjoy it.